Rick is an ugly, disgusting, pathetic loser who decided to quit his job after working for 14 years as an Adventurers Guild clerk. After vanishing for 2 years, Rick reappeared, having trained under the strongest team of adventurers. He learned all the basic skills required to become an F-rank adventurer. Rick was thrown to the ground after a grueling training session, so exhausted that he thought he wouldn't survive another second. However, his masters were impressed by his improvement over the last 2 years. They were convinced that the E-rank test would be a piece of cake for him, though they hoped he'd hold back to avoid destroying the arena. Rick humbly remarked that his strength was nothing compared to theirs. Returning to the city, Rick entered the Adventurers Guild to take the E-rank promotion test. At the counter, he presented his guild ID. The receptionist was about to hand him the admission ticket when she recognized him as her mentor. It was Elisa. Rick hadn't seen her in 2 years, and he was surprised to find her working in the Central Branch. Elisa, in turn, was shocked by Rick's sudden decision to quit the guild years ago, and even more baffled that he was now an adventurer. Rick was uncertain about his path, knowing it wasn't smart to start adventuring at 30. Most people began as F-rank adventurers in their teens, reaching E-rank in just 2 years. Elisa was curious about what Rick had been up to, so he explained that he'd been training in the mountains with senior adventurers. Their conversation was interrupted by a drunk adventurer making a pass at Elisa. She tried to decline politely, citing work hours, but the adventurer wouldn't back off. Rick intervened, pulling the man back with a light tap on the belly. Elisa apologized for the scene, but Rick dismissed it. He was used to such incidents from his time as a clerk. The drunk adventurer suddenly passed out in Rick's arms, causing a stir among the other adventurers in the guild. Rick laid him gently on the floor, advising everyone to drink responsibly. As Elisa handed Rick his entrance ticket, numbered 4242, he felt a wave of worry. 4 was his unlucky number. Exiting the guild, he met Ryanette, who was waiting for him. Meanwhile, the other adventurers noticed a handprint on the drunk adventurer's armor. Recognizing him as Damal, a wanted A-rank adventurer, they were shocked by what Rick had done with seemingly no effort. Elisa couldn't believe Rick's hand had left an imprint despite his gentle handling. Rick proceeded to the guild's registration area, where his physical details were recorded. A clerk was surprised to discover that Rick was 32 years old. Next, Rick's magic energy was tested using a crystal ball. Most participants ranked between D+ and C-, but Rick barely elicited a reaction, earning an F-, the lowest possible rank. The participants mocked him for being old and useless, calling him the world record holder for the lowest magical ability. Suddenly, the crystal ball cracked from an overload of energy. The guild official was stunned. Rick moved to the strength testing area, where participants struck a slime bag with all their might. Watching the others, Rick reminisced about his training with a golden slime bag. Back then, he had doubted his ability to destroy it, but his master had insisted it was a fundamental adventurer test. His master had destroyed the bag effortlessly, boasting the ability to demolish 200 slime bags at once. Inspired, Rick had trained relentlessly, landing 50,000 punches per day. Participants took turns punching the slime bag. One boy, the second son of a duke, stood out. At just 11, he had the magic equivalent of a C-rank adventurer. The boy conjured a level 3 natural blaze magic spell, which impressed the crowd despite its tiny impact. Rick, however, was underwhelmed, recalling how his master's version of the spell had burned down an entire forest. He silently praised the boy for compressing his magic indoors. Finally, Rick's number was called. The observer doubted him, advising him to give up since starting at 30 was too late. But Rick's memories of grueling training surfaced, fueling his resolve. With a single strike, Rick burst the slime bag open, shocking everyone. Participants wondered who Rick was. Rick, however, dismissed the feat, thinking the bag was defective. The Duke's son was infuriated, but believed he could outperform Rick in the next test. In the defense test, Rick faced a level 4, nature-composed magic spell that had been too powerful for the others. Rick deflected it with ease, using only a level 1 spell. The guild official was impressed by Rick's precise magic control, urging him to use a higher-level spell. Rick admitted he couldn't use anything beyond level 1. The official decided to test Rick with a level 5 spell, warning Rick to be careful. Despite his doubts, Rick countered the spell effortlessly. Sylvester, a first-class knight, observed from a distance. Intrigued, he visited the test area, where guild officials briefed him on Rick's unbelievable abilities. Rick proceeded to the written test. Afterward, he sat outside with Ryanette, expressing worry about his F- rank. She reassured him, reminding him of his 14 years of experience. The Duke's son, Fried, approached Rick, mocking him as a commoner. When Rick failed to remember Fried's name, Fried burst into tears, upset that Rick had overshadowed him. Fried's elder sister, Angelica, a member of the Knights of the Realm, challenged Rick to a duel by throwing her glove at him. Reluctantly, Rick accepted, realizing too late that he'd agreed by picking up the glove. In the arena, Angelica proposed a condition. The loser would serve the winner for life. Rick was worried. Knowing Angelica was equivalent to a B-rank adventurer, Ryanette encouraged him, reminding him of his training and the respect he'd earned from the strongest party on the continent. Angelica rushed at Rick, boasting incredible speed. However, to Rick, she seemed slow. He dodged her attacks effortlessly, leaving Angelica shocked. Frustrated, she tripped, turning her lunge into an accidental spin attack. Rick barely avoided it, realizing her movements were unpredictable. Angelica continued her assaults but grew exhausted. In her final attempt, she tripped again, accidentally creating a low attack. Rick countered instinctively, creating a huge hole in the arena. Angelica, grateful for her misstep, realized she had narrowly escaped death. Rick reminded Angelica of the duel's terms, but she surrendered and fled the arena, using her last ounce of energy to escape. Rick didn't feel like he'd won, but Ryanette assured him Angelica had acknowledged her loss. Returning to the guild, Rick awaited the results. Ryanette mentioned his masters would soon visit, leaving Rick overwhelmed. The day was far from over, but Rick knew he was no longer the pathetic loser he once thought himself to be.